Okay, so welcome to Blue Girls Video Podcast. I have dreams for you today of February 2022. So the first one is sitting in a circle. A group of teenagers are sitting in a small circle together. A young female teenager walks in the room and is embarrassed about wearing hair and pants. Most people in the group have their heads bowed low. I'm questioning if this is a therapy group and people are waiting for the therapist to show up. Oh, now I remember another dream about me this time. I seem to be confused in dream. I think my headaches are seeping into my dream. But anyway, so I remember this middle-aged woman with thin blonde hair, shoulder length hair with bangs. She was giving out free gifts to people at her store. I couldn't decide on my gift, but think I just got a crystal. Then I was walking around in an auditorium. I think I was going to get some medical procedure done, but I'm not for sure what happened. So the next dream is flight. Yeah, that's better. First dream, a cleaning team was at a bus station. They all had their cleaning supplies with them. It only takes one person to clean a bus station, so not for sure why I had private team. Fall back asleep. I had another dream of trying to get to an unfamiliar airport. I had to be at the airport really early and needed to leave my place at 3 a.m. to get there in time. I still think I may have missed my flight, not sure. I recall looking at different clocks at the airport and my white wristwatch, which I do not have in real life. Most of the clocks watches all had different times on them. I was in an area near a university of a former city that used to live a long time ago. It's a bus station, rail station where I have used to go to from an airport. My friend and this girlfriend were in the dream as well. They were sitting in their apartment. My older brother was in dream as well. Then I was sitting in front of these two professionally dressed people. One was a woman, the other a man. I do not have good writing skills and wanted them to help me write something. They didn't want to help me, so told them if I don't agree to it, I won't include it in my writing. The woman had red hair, reminded me of the character Scully from the X-Files. I also questioned if they were part of a legal team because of the way they both were dressed professionally. Okay, so this is another airport. I was with my youngest brother, and he was supposed to drive me to the airport. He was at work and didn't seem to even know about my trip to New York. I did have to cancel my Year's plan this year in real life. I seemed not to really care about this trip or even about canceling it. I went through my youngest brother's place looking for my gadgets to cancel a trip. I seemed to be out of sorts, possibly depressed and despondent in dream. Okay, so with this somewhat came true. These airport things. There's a flight, and then a couple days later, I have a dream of another airport. So I did fly to. It wasn't New York, but I did fly twice to one city, pretty close to each other, like maybe a month apart. And so let's see here. Here, there was something else I had to read. Okay, so I fell back. I fell back asleep. Cannot remember dream, but we'll try. All I can remember is a Mexican woman sitting at her desk, probably the same woman from my local doctor's office here. Okay, so January 14th, 2022, they will let you die. That's what I heard. Okay, so the next dream is going to be. Oh, well, I don't know what the next one. I can't even read it. Okay, so the next dream is seeing ghost. Well, so I don't know if this is a dream or not. I woke from a nightmare around 6:25 a.m. I had traveled back into time and was at my family's townhome in the 1980s. Okay, yeah, I think that I did have a dream of seeing a ghost. My brothers were in the townhome and both were the same age as back then. I remember this dream. I was my current age in dream, and it was my older brother's place in this dream. Well, that's kind of strange because it was actually, my mom, so it was kind of strange to go back in time in this dream. And my brother was the same age. Both my brothers were the same age, and my mom wasn't there. A boy had died, was haunting the townhome. I thought it was my youngest brother because the boy physically resembled him. This youngest brother is alive in real life. In the evening, my youngest brother was standing across from me near the living room couch in the front room. He had a black eye that he sustained prior to his death. I can see myself physically calling out my brother's name, but could not hear my voice. Then my youngest brother disappeared right in front of me. I ran upstairs to my older brother's room and asked, "Did you see him?" He didn't respond, but knew it was no. Okay, so it's kind of interesting, at least for me, to have a dream of a ghost. And so what happened in real life, and I have talked about this, was our family lived in the chicken coop and it was haunted. Okay, so it wasn't just me that experienced paranormal experiences there, like the cupboards would open and close by themselves, or just open by themselves, I'm not sure. I was really young. I was like 8 years old. So I did mention this before. And I was standing in the kitchen. I was 8 years old. And my brother was to the right of me. And I looked to my left. And I saw a ghost. I saw a man who was dressed in the 1950s. And his feet, his shoes, he had shoes on, did not touch the ground, the floor. They were about maybe a foot off the floor, because I remember looking at him, and then and then he was kind of floating, so that was kind of weird. And then I look over to my brother and I said, "Did you see that ghost?" No, I didn't say it. I said, "Did you see that man?" That's what I said. I didn't say ghost. And he didn't answer me. So it was something very similar in this dream. Yeah, on January 14th. Okay, and there's still more. It was very early in the morning, still dark outside, when was waiting to catch a bus at a shelter. This area looks familiar to me, downtown area and city where there are clusters of medical buildings. I went to a different bus shelter that usually to wait for shuttle bus. There were just a couple of old people on the bus and a guy with dark brown hair who was standing up on the bus. I didn't have enough time to get the correct bus amount for transferring, and the person in charge didn't care too much since it was a couple of bucks. The guy must have been some facilitator. So I remember that dream too. Candy is the next dream. Fell back asleep. A woman, possibly me, was standing in line. I had some candy that was going to send. A cheery young English man standing near the counter was assisting me. Library. I recall seeing the outside of a building in this dream. I talked to this one guy on the phone a couple of times. Then I was inside a building and approached a man with dark hair at the counter who seemed dark. There was a Mexican couple there as well. Fell back asleep. I was temporarily staying at an old woman's house. I was planning to return to my apartment on a weekend. The rent would be a day late, and there were two buses could take, one in the morning and another in the evening. I might have been at a library because there was dark brown wooden tables with several gadgets on them that assumed people were charging. I was having a hell of a time getting the information regarding the bus transportation, like my own personal gadgets weren't working correctly. So this young woman with blonde hair offered me to use one of the gadgets tablet on table. There was an older 20-something guy with dark brown eyes and dark frizzy hair that was sitting on the table as well. He wasn't paying attention to me, but was on his own gadget tablet. Targeted. I was outside in a parking lot and flagged down a security guard because thought he had my meds, which really didn't make sense. He didn't even acknowledge me trying to get his attention, and then I followed him into the store, and then he was gone. As I was waiting for my meds, I heard my name being called over the intercom. Once my meds were ready, I had one something, and then was writing down a phone number. Okay, but didn't get the entire number. Then I went up to a kiosk to try to get my meds, but didn't have my prescription numbers with me. I turned behind me, and a male pharmacist was at window. So I remember this. Targeted. I was targeted. Like, of course, there's different ways of being targeted because of whatever, your ethnicity, whatever. There's other things, right? So I don't know why a security guard. Why would I be flagging down a security guard for my meds that's inside, right? Which really didn't, it didn't make any sense. But, something could have been flagged. And so, And so it was kind of strange because I think it was a Target store that I followed him in, but that doesn't really make sense because that's for my meds. It was like the rest of the dream. It was somewhere else. I do know where it was at. But and then why would I go up to kiosk to get my meds? That kind of didn't make any sense either. Earlier dream, several women are at the counter. I can't remember rest of dream. Something unusual is occurring in the dreams. These dreams are occurring at different locations of the U.S., and my pattern is to dream of certain locations for a while, not two different locations in the U.S. at the same time. Okay, so well, this was the Midwest. This dream took place, but it was at two different locations. But usually, like if I have a dream, it's usually sometimes or most of the time I can tell where the location is in the U.S. I mean, not specifically, but the specific area, and I will state that, like the Pacific Northwest, the Midwest, whatever, out east. So that I'm stating that, that now these dreams are, one dream episode is two locations by locating. Okay, so the next dream is red hair. A woman with red hair who resembles my friend's girlfriend got off the back door of the bus. Then I got off behind her. I had a bus ticket in my hand and told her that would be going to Chicago for a couple of days and thought that haven't even made the reservations yet. I'm not for sure if the destination was Chicago or not. Okay, so the next dream is fight breaks out. In this dream, I was sleeping in a twin-size bed that was pushed up against the wall in the corner. I had my window slightly ajar while trying to fall asleep. A fight broke outside and heard a man tell another man that he was kicking him out, and then he punched him. I think the fight was about the man's daughter, not sure, and she wasn't around in the dream. I remained still in my bed as this was going on because didn't want them to know I was in my bed trying to sleep. Too cold is the next dream. A lot of snow in this dream. Area looks unfamiliar. There were 4 people sitting in the car, an older couple in front and some girl and myself in the back seat. The older couple in front went to go grocery shopping while this girl and myself waited in the back seat. As we were waiting, the car must have been on a slight hill because it started to roll back a little bit. So I think the girl fixed it. Then the couple came back with a large bag of coffee beans and other items underneath it. Later I was going to walk uptown and check out the area and maybe get a bite to eat. I thought, why do that? Because it was too cold and the couple just bought coffee. So from what I remember, I thought that this was Maine in the dream. I'm not for sure. I mean, this is... And so this older couple went and got some grocery items. And then me and this other girl were waiting in the car for them. And the car started to roll back a little bit, so that's a little unnerving. And the girl fixed it. Yeah, so that's what I think it was, but I'm not for sure. And, okay, so the next dream is being difficult. I was staying at an old woman's house, and she was being difficult. I'm not for sure why. I had a small bag with me and saw a thin paint brush sticking outside of bag. I thought someone got into my bag because something might have been missing. Not sure. I recall pleading with the old woman, saying that I will call my brother and go to his place or get some boxes, which I don't have in real life. I called my brother, and he was kind of out of it. Also, prior to this dream, I thought of my brother's old phone number. Okay, so all I remember about this dream is there was a young guy who was really positive. Okay, so the next dream is going to be doorknob.